You can take all the observations you want about what wins at Cannes. When you peel it all back, you know what really wins is agencies that know their clients, that understand their clients' business, and that prioritize doing work that advances their clients' business. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next Coffee with Grant. I am joined by Beatrice. You want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you for having me here. We're in Madrid. I'm Beatrice. I'm the managing director at Hotwire, managing Italy and Spain.
Well, I am so glad that we're doing this today. I think I've shared with you, Italy and Spain are two of my favorite places. Madrid, in fact, is probably my favorite place in the world. And I am hot off the tails of Cannes and really excited to spend a little bit of time talking with you about that experience and maybe what it means for where we are here right
Absolutely.
now.
Tell me more about Cannes.
Well, Cannes is such an interesting place because it is an unbelievable kind of confluence of different people, right? So mostly it's marketers and advertisers. Increasingly, it's more technologists. And this year, I think more than ever before, it was a lot of communicators. So a lot of our client types coming in and exploring how creativity is evolving, what it means for the work that we do. And there were so many interesting, I think, experiences when you begin to peel back kind of what was really happening. Because at first, it obviously looks like a lot of parties and a lot of, right, that kind of, it has a reputation, right? But and it is that in a lot of ways, but it's also this incredible sharing of knowledge, this unbelievable celebration of the work and of creativity. It is in recent years, and this year maybe more than ever, a celebration of public relations and of the impact that has on business, on society, and given everything that's going on in the world, right? To be able to have a space where everyone sort of takes a moment and looks at the work that we do and attempts to understand why it's working or what's standing out and what's making an impact really was quite a special place to be.
Is it my idea or my feeling that it's becoming bigger and bigger?
Yeah, it is. I think it's definitely becoming bigger. It's also really changing.
Maybe not bigger, but more focused and a place to be for our industry.
Yeah, I think for communicators specifically, it's definitely more of a place to be than it's ever been before. I think it's also, there's a lot more tech there. So a lot of advertising technology, a lot of the big technology players are playing a bigger role even than ad agencies used to. And so I think that has been a marked difference. It's definitely a change. But for sure, you're seeing a lot more communicators showing up, and not just folks focused on external comms, but also folks focused on internal comms, people focused on how we communicate with employees and how those stories are changing. There are a lot more of them than there's ever been before. So I do think that's definitely happening, but it also looks a little bit different. There was a time when Cannes was all advertising creatives, and it isn't that anymore. They're there, to be sure, but I think most big company CMOs are there, most marketing staffs are there, most big company chief communications officers are there, and increasingly important conversations are being had about how the craft is changing, about how the work that we do is evolving. And certainly AI is a part of that, but I actually think it was even more dynamic and interesting than I expected it to be. And this was my first year there representing Hotwire, and we did a number of activations, right? A number of events with different media outlets and different clients in different venues, and really sought to convene thinkers across spaces, across industries, across disciplines to talk about what was happening and how we need to be evolving as an agency in support of our clients who are just trying to navigate this incredibly complex world.
That's interesting. I'm prompting you now in the AI era. If you have to summarize Cannes just in 3 words or 3 concepts, how would you describe it?
It's interesting. I think I will describe the three things I observed, sort of the three big takeaways, because describing Cannes in three words is like beautiful, exhausting, and rosé. But describing the takeaways, I think there were really I kind of observed three big things. The first, I'm going to call kind of reemergence of the importance of earned in a big way, right? So if you look back over the years and you look at the PR category, you look at the social and influencer category, a lot of times you saw ad agencies or creative agencies really standing out in those spaces. And I think an undervaluing of traditional earned media relations and of traditional like earned events. There was a big shift this year and a big reemergence of the importance of those things. And I think that was really noticeable in the case studies, which is something I would tell everybody. If you have an opportunity to study the cases that win at Cannes, you should, because there's so much to learn. But so one is this earned is back. I mean, it is big in a big way. I think the second, AI and the way it was included in Cannes really evolved this year. Last year, I would say every case study was sort of centered and built around AI. The year before, it was almost like the new thing. And so the cases that included AI were standout. This year, AI was a component. It was an enabler. It was sort of built into a lot of the case studies, but it wasn't the thing that made them special. And that was different and distinct. And I think that is a signpost for us about where we're going. AI becomes the thing that makes our work possible, that makes new ideas possible, that makes new activations, new concepts, new ways to think about data. Like all of that becomes possible because of AI. But it isn't about AI. And I think that's an important transition. And I think the third thing was really about measurement and data. And we've been seeing this trend over the years, but there really is an interesting, almost like data arms race happening where you see this divergence of the cases. Some are really leaning into old traditional kind of measures, things like impressions. And, I want 5 billion impressions or 6 billion impressions. And I think when you look at what won, what we found was actually a big shift towards measures that were about business outcomes. So even if the numbers were smaller, if they were correlated more directly to things that a company was trying to achieve, then they really stood out. And I think that's actually a good sign for us, for the craft, for the profession, because the more we can impact the real business of our clients, the better off we're going to be, top to bottom, right? So I think that really played out in an important way. And, that's connected to AI too, because AI lets us measure, it lets us gather data and analyze data more actively, more quickly, more rapidly, more effectively, right? You also saw this emergence of what I would call like created influencers. So organizations finding people who align with their values and who might have a small audience, and then really contributing to helping that influencer build an audience that is aligned to what they were trying to achieve. And you saw that through a number of case studies, but it was almost like the anti-celebrity celebrity. And those people are more relatable. They're sort of more normal. I think the average viewer on social can really relate to them, because I think this idea that influence can only exist among celebrities really broke down in a fundamental way at Cannes this year.
I was reading a report that they published in Italy some days ago, and that was a trend. I mean, the rise up of nano micro influencers rather than the big celebrities one. We had like a case 2 years ago. I mean, a big case. So probably that's also the history behind. But yes,
Yeah.
this is.
Well, and it speaks to a little bit of you and I were talking about this just earlier with our team here in Spain. The need of the clients in all of our work is often complicated and requires multiple levers to be pulled, right? You can't, it's not just one thing. It's not just an influencer program. It's not just a social program. It's not just an earned media program. It often has to be all of those things working in tandem. And I think we sometimes think about that as a thing that only, big accounts, big integrated agencies really do. But we were talking about this. Actually, often we do that sort of work with clients in smaller markets with smaller teams because it's a necessity. I thought that was such an interesting observation. I wonder if you could sort of share a little bit more with how that plays out on the ground in markets like Italy and Spain for our teams?
No, that happens. I mean, some days ago we were asked by a client to do like a marketing plan that it's not our core, but basically they do not have people and they just as us, and it's a good way because that means that we can. I mean, we have a lot of strategy in our hands, so we can play with multi channels and create like a proper integrated campaign that mixed everything, because we have in our hands the biggest strategy that you can cascade down into pillars or into multi-channels. And basically in smaller teams you have just 2-3 people, 4 people that can do everything, so you have to improve yourself. And I like the fact, I mean, the idea about with AI everything's possible, because sometimes you have to be creative in the way you use maybe AI to unlock some potentials, but the thinking remains on the humans, because you have to prompt AI to get the real answers or the real data to allow you to create like even a big campaign with a smaller team. And that's something that we are already doing, and maybe we will win Cannes Lion sometimes.
I mean, I sure hope it's a good goal. Listen, I think
Sky's the limit.
absolutely. Part of what's so interesting is this, I think often we talk about the idea of knowing clients. And so, when you have a smaller team, when clients are smaller, when they have small teams and they rely on the agency in a different way. And I see this as I spend time with our teams here, with our clients. We know those clients extraordinarily well. We know their strategy. We understand their business because we have to, because we are deeply embedded in those teams. And I think, sometimes when you're talking about these big global accounts, it's harder to know every detail about the client, every detail about what they're working on. But here, we really do know all of those things. And so when a client comes to us with a problem, we can think creatively and strategically about how to solve it. And when you can take all the observations you want about what wins at Cannes, when you peel it all back, what really wins is agencies that know their clients, that understand their clients' business, and that prioritize doing work that advances their clients' business. That's what really wins, because ultimately, a creative idea with no impact isn't going to stand out. It isn't going to win. It isn't going to solve problems that clients need solved. And as we think about the future of Hotwire, I'm really focused on how we deliver more end benefit, more outcome for our clients. Because if we can do that every day, and the work you're describing, we have to do that, because there is no safety net. There is no big global team to sort of step in and help. We have to be there for clients in that way. And I think that's so special.
More and more we are hearing from clients sentences like, we need to work for hands, or we need real partners, or you need to help us, because sometimes that happens in particular into multinational. Being a smaller country or not a tier 1 country means that you have to deliver powerful campaigns and try to cascade down into markets that are very different from each other, or probably from the headquarters. We had the conversation the other day with the client, so sometimes it's not easy when everything comes from the US or another country, and then but even in Europe, and then you have to cascade down into another geography, because even thinking, I'm working with Spain and Italy, and they're totally different.
Right.
Totally different.
Right. Yeah, they're relatively close to each other, but really remarkably not similar in a lot of ways. And it's a really interesting observation, in part because it comes back to that core idea. Like, you have to understand the client and what they're trying to achieve and where they're trying to achieve it.
It's easy to win when everything's fine, or when you have money, when the situation is stable, when everything, when you are into the waves, surviving, it's even more like enjoyable, I would say.
I love that. I love the idea, and this is actually a perfect way to end our chat. I love the idea that sometimes winning, thriving through the challenge, through the struggle, is even more satisfying. And I think there is a very real truth to the idea that as communicators, we often are the first port of call for clients who have to navigate something bad, who
Absolutely.
have to deal with a struggle or a crisis, who have to deal with a challenge. And I think I'd rather be on Team Challenge every day.
Absolutely. I'm with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Grant.
Really enjoyed this.
It has been a very nice coffee.